Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Carolina Conservatives. We are Preachers with a Punch, and we are getting ready to go into another lightning rod round. Folks, we are going to be hitting several topics, so you better hang on, buckle up, because we are getting ready to hit the gas pedal. We're going to go 0 to 60 in a 2.4 seconds here. So you better hang on. We're going to hit some major topics that need to be discussed from a biblical standpoint, from that perspective here today. I am Dr. Nathan Street.
And I am Pastor Alan Mashburn. It is great to be back with you. There's never nothing not to talk about. I mean, good grief, everything happening in the world today. Bring us into our first topic.
Well, Pastor, when you got lunatics that are in charge of everything that's going on, they're going to give you a lot of content. That's for sure. So talk about some lunacy that has been going on. And folks, this is some dangerous lunacy, by the way. We are seeing a shocking, and there's no other way to say it, a sickening and shocking embrace of pedophilia in this country. And it is open. I mean, it is amazing how fast that this is being, and it's been out there for some time, but now it's becoming more mainstream. And we're calling these people minor attracted persons rather than pedophiles, because pedophiles has some negative connotation. And, you know, people may feel these feelings and not really act on them. And that's really okay if we do that. Folks, this is the slippery slope that we're on. When we start allowing men to marry men and women to marry women, and we start okaying that in the public square, this is the slippery slope. It's just going to keep on getting worse and worse, which the Bible says will happen. So recently, a fashion magazine called Balenciaga, which is the owner of Balenciaga is married to Salma Hayek. So this is really rooted in Hollywood. And a lot of these Hollywood A-listers like Kim Kardashian and others that use Balenciaga, it's some really rich elite fashion brand that they can buy clothes. We saw children being featured, and this is not new. This has just been recently discovered, but it's been happening with Balenciaga, that they had children featured in sexualized positions in this magazine, holding teddy bears dressed in BDSM costuming, and then also with some court documents where where the Supreme Court had actually approved of these pedophiles in jail to be able to still view the child pornography that they had. Folks, this is laying it out for everyone to see. And we are being threatened, and we are being dared to say anything about it. And we're even being told that if we do come out and say something about it, we're bigoted, we're homophobic, we're transphobic, we're whatever. Pretty soon it's going to be pedophilophobic, or whatever they want to call it. It's eventually that's what it's going to come to. And with what's happening in California, that if you go back and listen to what we talked about with Congressman Mark Walker a couple months ago on this podcast, what's happening in California is eventually going to be happening where you can take children and they can transition from one gender to the other surgically in California without parents being told or parents being able to stop them from doing that. The same thing is going to be applying in pedophile cases. And do not think that this is way out there, because we never thought we would be here to begin with. But let's imagine a 30-year-old wanting to have sex with a 13-year-old. And that is illegal in 49 states. But you go to California, I guarantee you it won't be long. California will become a minor attracted person's sanctuary state, where that 30-year-old can go with that 13-year-old if the 13-year-old really wants to be with the 30-year-old, and it's going to be completely acceptable. That is what Hollywood is force-feeding us. That's what we're seeing here with this Balenciaga. It is just more of what is happening, coming down the pike, of normalizing something sick and twisted and totally inappropriate.
Absolutely. While you were talking, I grabbed my Bible, and it's just Romans 1:28 playing out before our eyes.
Yes.
And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient. they are doing everything in the world that they can to normalize this. And what I've seen of what you just referenced, it is sick in some of the ads.
Yeah.
But they're doing everything they can to normalize the transgenderism. They're doing everything they can to normalize the pedophilia, these drag shows. I don't listen. If you even want a drag queen or a pervert dressed up in garb like that around a child, you have a problem.
Yes. You
And
you
so
should not be a parent, period.
absolutely. And you should not even have children. And everything that I have seen by way of video, these drag queens are shaking their crotches in the front of the children. And let me tell you something, if you did that in front of my child, you would not be able to be put back together by the Humpty Dumpty who fell off the wall. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you would not be put that back together by a surgeon.
They wouldn't
That
need a
is not
surgeon.
going to happen.
If it happened in front of me, they wouldn't need a surgeon because I believe I would be their unofficial surgeon right there. Because I've even seen some of these ads, Pastor, where these drag queens are dancing in front of children, that they're allowing children to touch their crotch areas. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they know what they're
open.
doing. It is intentional,
Yep.
and it is intentional depravity. It is to normalize it. It is to sexualize it. It is to get them off. And yeah, I use that terminology. It's basically to feed their sexual depraved appetite.
Yes.
And our leadership in this country wants to normalize that garbage. No, we will not stand for it.
We have seen this sexualization in schools with these sexualized, highly sexualized, perverted books. And we've covered that extensively on this podcast. Well, we've seen that and how this progression is happening to normalize and sexualize children to the point to and groom them to the point to where they accept this kind of behavior, so that when these pedophiles and these perverts come to them and try to have sex with them, the children are going to think that this is just normal. This is something that they should do. That's the goal, folks. That's what they want to have happen in this country, is have an entire generation of children now who will grow up to be adults that thinks there's nothing wrong with this, but so that those perverts can access our children.
Yeah, and I get accused of having an anger problem when I get angry about it. Let me tell you something. There is a difference between righteous indignation against sinful acts and having an anger problem. And if you've got a problem with that, you've got a problem with me. Move on.
Well, let me tell you something. Jesus even said that if you harm one of these, while he was holding a child, if you harm one of these little ones, that it would be better for you to hang a millstone around your neck and cast into the sea. Talk about anger. Let me tell you something, folks. The Bible also tells us to be angry and sin not. We can be angry about what we are seeing. And if you don't get angry about it, I question what's wrong with you. If you can't get angry, righteously angry about this destruction, that is this sexual destruction that is trying to be perpetrated on our children, if you don't get angry about this, I question what's wrong with you. And we've got to do something about this. And Pastor, we're seeing even some school boards who are standing up and are actually taking a stand now against this garbage that is being thrust on our children, and trying to put some of this power back into the hands of parents where it should be.
Yes. Even the John Locke Foundation has highlighted something that the Moore County School Board of Education is putting forth, and Chairman Bob Levy, called the Parents' Bill of Rights. And we'll have a copy of that on the screen for you to view, and perhaps even a link. But they're leading the way, and I'm proud of them. I commend them. They're doing the right thing for our children.
Amen. Amen. Look, children's first teachers are their parents. Parents have been given by God the responsibility to raise their children. That does not negate the importance of teachers in children's lives. I am an educator. I've been for over 20 years an educator. I revere the position of teachers. A good godly teacher is someone that is awesome in the life of a child, but that does not supplant the responsibility that God has granted to parents. Parents should be the first teacher in a child's life, should be responsible for inculcating all the values and morals that is necessary to be a proactive adult, to being a good citizen in this country. It is the parent's responsibility to raise the child in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. The Lord did not give that responsibility to us as educators. So kudos to those school boards who are leading the way and taking the biblical stance and giving that power to the parents, and that responsibility, by the way, that is due to parents. With great responsibility, there comes with great honor comes great responsibility. A lot of times, there's not a promise without a price in a lot of instances, and so you as parents must pay the price to be able to do what God has called you to do.
Yeah, and we tremendously reach out to them with great honor for doing that, and we trust it will be a model for the rest of the state and go down to South Carolina as well, and through the legislature. We need this on the books. Now, I was talking to a legislator the other day, and I said, now you've got to focus on, instead of being reactive, you've got to be proactive, because you can't just wait for things to happen. With what you're seeing out in the West, usually comes down toward the East, and you have to be proactive in our laws and in our legal system. Which brings me to a representative from South Carolina, Nancy Mace. She was being proactive.
Now, I'm just going to lay this out, because Nancy Mace, Representative Mace, is often liberal on a lot of viewpoints. She voted for the Disrespect for Marriage Act. She thinks that is perfectly okay to codify marriage as between the same-sex individuals. So there's a lot of things that Nancy Mace gets wrong. But we also want to call out people like Nancy Mace when they get things right. And just recently, Nancy Mace, she was speaking in an House Oversight Committee meeting where they were discussing extremism and white supremacy. And during this, Nancy Mace, questioning a far-left panel that the Democrats brought in, asked them if they believed extremist rhetoric leads to violence, rhetoric that's put out there on social media. So she goes down through the panel and asks every single one of them, and every single one of them said that, yes, they believe that those words lead to violence. Well, then Nancy Mace automatically turns around, puts a tweet up so that everybody can see it, from one of those trans activists that they had on the panel, Alejandra Caraballo, with several of her tweets calling for violence, specifically calling for violence against Supreme Court justices. This woman, actually, this Alejandra Caraballo, or man, whatever she is, I know she's trans. I don't know which side she transitioned to, so we'll just call her it at this point in time. She was completely taken off guard, completely silenced into submission here, and she's not been used to being called out for this. But she tried to then play off of, oh, you're taking this out of context. And she specifically called for violence against the Supreme Court justices, which has actually led to attempts on Supreme Court justices' lives. So talk about actual violence that has been perpetrated because of this. If this is wrong for you to say something that could lead to violence, then this should be considered at the height of what is wrong.
Absolutely. And one thing you don't realize, these guys that don't realize that when they come in and they testify before the House Judicial Committee or any committee. I had a member of Congress the other day, and I'm going to go ahead and say this on the video. I had a former member of Congress call me recently and say, you may be interested in running for Congress one day. And I said, yeah, I would love to get up there and tell them what for. Standing, yes. Sitting up there with Jim Jordan and just giving them fire,
Yes.
But think of the money you'd have to raise for that. But the one thing we were talking about is, they have a team. The congressmen and congresswomen have a team that work on their behalf, that brings up all the research and has it ready for them to present. And that's what this person, we'll call this individual, did not realize, is that they have a research team that can go back into Twitter and their files and find this incite to violence that the left never gets accused of. They never gets prosecuted.
Right.
And the GOP is saying, yeah, we're going to issue subpoenas. You can issue all you want to. You never do anything with it.
No.
You never charge anyone. You never arrest anyone. You never make people pay for doing the wrong thing. And so it's just garbage. I mean, it's theater.
It is, Pastor. And I think it's important that we read this tweet that this Alejandra Caraballo put out there. I'm going to read it word for word. The 6 justices who overturned Roe should never know peace again. That's already the dog whistle. It is our civic duty to accost them. Now, when we talk about accosting, that's usually an insinuation of physical violence. Assault. It is our civic duty to accost them every time they are in public. They are pariahs. Since women don't have their rights, these justices should never have a peaceful moment in public again. Talk about dangerous. Talk about, something that's going to lead to violence. This has more chance of leading to violence than anything else that the right has remotely said.
I guarantee you, if you or I tweeted that out at 4 p.m. today, we would have an FBI agent by 10 o'clock in the morning knocking on our door.
Or putting a boot through the door.
Exactly. At 5 a.m.
At 5 a.m. with about 30 of them for one person.
Exactly.
That's the way it rolls here. But one thing that we've got, and not only did Nancy Mace really take this up, but also did Byron Donalds. Representative Byron Donalds was also confronted this radical trans activist. But one thing that we need to give Nancy Mace for all the things she gets wrong, and Nancy, we're calling you out on the things you've gotten wrong. You need to start acting like more of a conservative and representing the conservative South Carolinians who have put you in office. You need to represent them better. But in this case, this was very smart, and you deserve a great big applause for what you did here and taking this person down and making them out to be the hypocrite that they are. And or he or she is, or whatever it is, you deserve the accolades that you get from this. Thank you so much for doing this.
A lot of members of the GOP do take a stand on the trans garbage going on, but you're going to see a lot of them fold because they know how to play them. The left knows how to play the GOP, and they do it all the time. They know how to win against them. They use the hate card, they use the race card, and all of a sudden you see them fold. And listen to me, folks, you have got to take a stand, and you've got to take a stand on what's right. This cannot be allowed to be normalized. Take a look at it on the world stage. Even Macron over there in France is talking about the gender mutilation, what I call the mutilation, the transitioning surgery. He's like, keep that over there. Don't bring it over here. Even him, as liberal as he is, he's like, we don't need that in France going on.
That's exactly right.
You have got to take a stand. You're our last resort. Now, we'll send you home at election time, but that brings us up to another point, and that is our final point, the Twitter files. Speaking of elections.
Yeah. And I'll tell you something, Pastor, these Twitter files have been shocking, to be honest, because, folks, and this might, we've got to kind of tread a little carefully here, but hey, I'm just going to say it. We're this close with the FBI, or what I like to call the FBI, and the CIA having been completely politicized to be arms of the Democrat Party. We have become this close now. We're on the verge of totalitarianism and an autocracy here in this country, where you've got a Gestapo that is willing to come and put a boot through your door because you happen to go against the prevailing mindset of the Democrat Party. You've got a Justice Department that is using them as a cudgel to beat us over the head as conservatives because we go against the Democratic Party. Folks, if we don't clean out the FBI and the CIA and the National Security Agency and all these other alphabet soup organizations, the Justice Department, if we don't do something, get someone in there that's going to clean this out, folks, we have become a banana republic. We have become a kangaroo court, And all it's going to be is persecution of conservatives from here on out. The Twitter files is actually exposing some of this, exposing a lot of this. It has exposed how the last election in 2020 was really, I'm not going to go so far as to say rigged, but it has shown that it has been greatly influenced by the actions of social media. And that's just Twitter. We don't even know about Facebook yet, but we have seen Twitter, and we've seen Jack Dorsey get up and lie to Congress. Will the Justice Department in front of Congress? Doubtful. They're going to leave. They're going to let him go because he happens to be on the same kind of mentality as the Democrats. He happens to be a leftist, so they're going to be okay with all that. But folks, we are starting to see things we already knew, we already suspected. We're starting to see the evidence now from these Twitter files of exactly how the left has used the government to get into social media, these really weird wormholes that they created, backdoor channels into social media so that the FBI could come in and take down posts that was critical of Democrats. Folks, this has happened, and we're seeing the evidence of this now. Pastor, what do we make of this?
Well, I'm not certain that we could ever reform it. It's just too big. It's too out of control. Yeah. I think we have to be cognitive of the fact that this is spiritual warfare. Yes. And I don't want somebody to say, oh, he's copping out and he's taking this to spiritual nature. I have no choice. I have no choice because it is spiritual battle.
It is.
It's evil. And you say, is the Democrat Party evil? Yeah, and I'll say this: there's evil in both parties.
Yes,
there's evil in all of it. There's evil in the government.
Yes,
but there's evil in us. That's the problem. So here, the real issue has to do with the heart of these people and the fact that they don't appreciate what our veterans have done, laying down their lives. They don't appreciate free speech. They call it free speech, but it's not. It's controlled. Mm-hmm. It's censored. We've been censored. Good grief.
We have been.
We got as high as 25,000, 26,000 not used totally, but insights and my thoughts of leaving me on that part. I'm not techie, but we got really high up there, and then all of a sudden, when we hit that mark, we started seeing our numbers deplete. Yep. So that tells me that's not natural.
Right.
That has been tampered with by someone, but at any rate,
algorithms have been manipulated.
Algorithms have been manipulated. So the point is, we rely too much on these on technology, and if algorithms can be put in to affect how you and I, for instance, the other day I was looking up something on Lowe's.com, and when I got back on Facebook, within 5 minutes, I had ads for the very same thing I was looking up. So these devices are smarter than we are. I used to say they were only as smart as the dummy in front of them, but now they're smarter than we are, and they actually want to think for us, which is in effect wanting to think for us in every avenue. Yeah. So I think the Twitter files shows
I believe they're being used to spy on us. I mean, I'll just put it out there. Maybe I'm a crazy conspiracist, but
I don't think we need to be naive to the fact.
No, but we're seeing all these so-called conspiracy theories that are now being bore out in reality. So maybe I should be more of a conspiracy theorist. But it is something that we're going to continue following with these Twitter files, because I understand that maybe some stuff is going to be coming down on Fauci. Especially after Elon Musk tweeted out and made all the liberals' heads spin off when he said his pronouns are now prosecute Fauci. And so I have always been a proponent of prosecuting Fauci, and so has Rand Paul, and I very appreciate Rand Paul for taking Fauci to task. And hopefully that, and this is something that I learned about Fauci too, just how evil this man is used to experiment on puppies and actually put puppies in this container, which would hold them by their neck, and then release sandflies, which would eat their faces while they were living. I mean, that's how evil this man. He truly is a James Bond villain. This Fauci is, and so I'll be looking forward to seeing that if there's something else that Fauci has done that he could be prosecuted for. Doubtful they'll ever do it, but at least we will learn the truth about this man, stuff we've already known. But this sort of stuff is what's coming out in the Twitter files. We're now learning about all this stuff that was really manipulated. And Pastor, they even had the FBI attorney working for Twitter, and he tried to scrub all this information before Elon Musk could release it. So, when they're trying to sweep stuff under the rug and hide it all of a sudden and erase some things, a la Hillary Clinton and her bleach bit on her 30,000 emails, there's something generally there that they don't want people to see.
Well, two things. One, when depravity has no boundaries, depravity knows no boundaries. And so, I mean, if that means tearing down a nation, it means tearing down a nation. Secondly, Elon Musk, he is the richest man in the world. I hope he has the richest security plan in the world, because he's really putting himself out there. And I'm not saying that or pointing fingers at anyone, but when you start releasing things that people know a lot about that they don't want released, that usually makes you a target.
Yes. Yeah. And
so,
and here's the thing about Elon Musk that I think our listeners need to know. He's not a conservative. He's been liberal for the majority of his life. Now, I think he is seeing just how dangerous the left is these days, and has now trying to, his Overton window has shifted more toward the right. But I look at him more as a classical liberal, in that live and let live, don't be involved in anybody's business. That's more of a classical liberal, which was more along the lines of where our founding fathers were. But that is where I think he has found himself, is that the left has lurched so far left that it has essentially left people like Elon Musk behind.
I disagree with
some of those others.
I disagree with him on a lot of things. He and I certainly don't see eye to eye on climate change. No. We certainly don't see eye to eye on AI, artificial intelligence. I'm not a proponent of anything going in anyone's brain.
Right.
I think that'll be desperately used by Antichrist in Bible prophecy. And I'm not saying that Elon Musk is going to be a contributor. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is I think that he has common sense and he's a critical thinker.
Yeah.
And he's able to think for himself. He doesn't drink the Kool-Aid that someone puts in front of him. And he has the money to back up anything he wants to do.
Well, here's the thing with that Neuralink that's supposed to go in the brain. The left will never be able to use it, because you have to have a brain first before you can actually have the Neuralink implanted. And everyone
you've heard it here first.
Everyone knows they lack one of those.
And let's go out with this, because we all love this. AOC did a climate video documentary and put it out to over 100 theaters, and she only raked in an average of $80 per theater. What we would say in the South, bless her heart.
It's hilarious, Pastor. That is really hilarious. But what just really struck me about what you just said, which is even more hilarious, that I think all of our listeners need to know. I had just got through talking about the left being completely brainless, and the first person Pastor Mashburn thinks of is AOC, and jumps right into that. So talk about a perfect segue. There you go.
I mean, I couldn't think of anyone better to represent the person who really needs AI.
Oh, Lord, she just needs I. Let's just leave the A off. She just needs I, and a good injection of I.
Bless her heart.
Folks, listen, we're having a good time here, but I also want to say this to you, too. What I just said about the FBI and all, I just want to make this public statement. Everybody listen carefully. I am not suicidal. So if I end up dead, you'll know that it was the Clinton Foundation that probably came to kill me, and the FBI that works for them. So I'm going to leave that there. I am not suicidal. I am perfectly fine. So I want
I'm
everyone
sorry,
to
Dr. Street is breaking up. I can't hear what he just said. I have no idea what he just said. I was not a partaker of it, nor do I really know him at this time in his life.
Folks, listen. You know you love this. You know you love Preachers with a Punch. And boy, we love you too. And we really ask you to come on board with us, join with us. Let's get this message out. If you want to sponsor us, folks, we need you so that we can, and I sound like a televangelist here doing this. We need you. Sow your seed into
the seed money.
Seed money, sow seed money. We're not going to say that because that's not legitimate, but we do need you to sow some seed, I guess, to put some money into this so we can keep doing what we are doing. Folks, there's some big things coming up, and we can't really get into yet, but there are some big things coming up that Carolina conservatives. Pastor, are we going to put the new thing that you showed me the other night? I shouldn't be saying this on air, but here I am saying it. The new, is it an intro?
Yeah, we're going to be putting that new intro on. If not these videos, we're definitely going to do that first of 23.
If we've got the new intro on these videos that we've just recorded today, folks, let me tell you something. Zach Mashburn is a smart kid to put that stuff together. My goodness.
You see where the genes come from.
Yes, I'll make sure to tell Melissa hello for me on that.
Oh, yeah, she had a small part in it. But we're also planning on doing a Christmas special. We want to spend time and talk to you about what the real meaning of Christmas is. Not commercial. It's not about looking forward to just spending time with family. It's about the reality of Jesus Christ. So we'll be back to do that. And Dr. Street will be intricate in that as well.
And I want to also just one last thing is plug that I just got over COVID again, very mild this time. You know, it went by pretty easily, but I will be dropping some more on the series that I started with education and how the left has destroyed it. I will be doing some more of that. So be prepared for that. Be looking for those. The first episode is already dropped. We're calling these shorts. So they're about 10, 15 minutes long. They're not going to take a lot of time, but it will give you good insight into where we were and how we have gotten where we have gotten in education. So be prepared for that. Be looking for that. Folks, we thank you so much for joining us here today and a part of our lightning rod round on Carolina Conservatives Preachers with a Punch. I'm Dr. Nathan Street.
And I'm Pastor Alan Mashburn. It is a great honor for you to take time with us and to hear what we have to say and to even respect it. Many of you have written in. Some have written in and don't like it. Hey, we're open to that too, and we respect your opinion as long as you're nice. But hey, if you also support the things that we are against and we stand against biblically, we'll issue you an invitation to come on and debate us. We're just not seeking to push our opinion around, but let's sit down a debate table and do what our founding fathers did on how they literally started this country. They got together, they discussed it, they hashed it out, and they actually came up with a plan. We don't want to just get up and fight and fuss and preach and just tell you what we are and browbeat you. We want to come up with real solutions because we live in America, and we must live even with people we don't agree with. And that's just where we are.
I do want to fuss and fight and browbeat in it. So I do want.
Sometimes I do too. I just said that. I was reading my script, okay?
Folks, thanks again for joining us. We hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. God bless you. We love you. I'm Dr. Nathan Street.
I'm Pastor Alan Mashburn. God bless you. Look forward to the next time.